Hello, good morning, good evening, and good day to every Dhamma friends. Uh, Welcome all of you to the Empty Cloud Monastery Dhamma page. And I am Bhante Pesala from uh, Sri Lanka, Lapunodu the Forest Monastery, which is in the north central province of Sri Lanka. So, today, as we have scheduled, we are going to talk about Four Noble Truths in very deep sense. So, let's wait for a while until our Dhamma friends gathered here. So, before begin to the talk, I would like to remind you that it is a very subtle topic and it is very deep and uh, difficult to understand. So, you may arise with so many doubts and questions. I first of all, I would like to invite you to ask any of the questions. So you can comment the questions in the comment box, and at last, finally, I can answer the questions. So now, so many friends have gathered. Okay, again, I would like to welcome all of you for today's Dhamma talk. And before we begin, we pay our homage to the Samma Sambuddha. Let's all together worship the Samma Sambuddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namassami. Okay, dear Dhamma friends, last time in the last talk, I have given a Dhamma talk which is about the which we talk about the core of Buddhism. You know, by giving a simile of a tree, we have explained by taking one of the sutta as the example, and there we talk that if one person needing of having a hardwood of the tree, he just go to the jungle, and instead of taking the core or the hardwood of the tree, if he just satisfied with the leaves or bark or something which is not the hardwood of the tree, he is not the getting the results out of the tree. Similarly, the person, the disciples or the followers of Buddhism, if they not touch with the Four Noble Truths, actually they are not taking the essence of this Buddhism. So you know that, you already well aware that our great teacher's first sermon is Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, means that the wheel of Dhamma, rolling of the wheel of the Dhamma, meaning because all the teachings, if you think carefully, if you consider, if you do the wise consideration or the Yoniso Manasikara, you can put all the teachings into the Four Noble Truths. And to make you firm that, if you go to the sutta like Mahahatti Padopama Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya, in that sutta it is mentioned that if someone if any animal, if you take all the footprints of the animals in the jungle, the biggest animal is animal is the elephant. So the elephant, so all the footprints of the other animals can be put inside into the footprints of the elephants. So similarly, all the things, all the teachings we discuss in Buddhism, in the Buddhist doctrine, we can include all the things into the Four Noble Truths. So today, I'm going to explain it by using a beautiful sutta. So if you want to know further about Four Noble Truths, uh, like Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta as well as the Satya Vibhanga Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya, If you go to the Samyutta Nikaya, connected discourses of our great teacher, there is a separate sector, separate section of the Samyutta Nikaya, separate segment that is known as Satya Samyutta. So all there are four, so many suttas which relates to the uh, these four noble truths. That since that is known as Satya Samyutta. Satya means truth. So the sutta that now I am going to discuss with you, it is in the Satya Samyutta, which is in the Samyutta Nikaya, Mahavagga. So the name of the sutta is Papata Sutta. Papata means in English it is known as a cliff. So sutta begins like this. Ekam samayam bhagava rajagaya viharati gijjagute pabbati. So at one time, our great teacher Samma Sambuddha was staying near Rajagaha on the Vulture's Peak mountain. So then Atako Bhagava Bhikkhu Amantesi. At that time, our great teacher just addressed the bhikkhus or the monks, then said to the monks, come mendicants, come monks, let's go to the Vulture Park for the day's meditation. So Buddha invited monks to go to a certain place. I think that place is which is suitable for the gathering of monks and for the doing of meditation altogether. It's a kind of a mountain-like thing. So the monks replied to the Buddha, "Yes, sir," and they all together went to that particular place. When they are reaching to that particular mountain, a certain mendicant saw the big cliff over there. So when one is climbing over the mountain, something like that, we could observe, we could see sometimes there are huge cliff. And this particular monk also saw that cliff. And that monk said to the Buddha, Mahavatayam bhante papato, subhayanako bhante papato. Venerable sir, that big cliff is really huge and very scary. So then further he asked from the Buddha, Venerable sir, is there any other cliff bigger than and scarier than this one? So at that time our Samma Buddha replied to the monks, there is mendicant, there is. Attigo bhikkhu. So then the disciple monks again asked from the Buddha, but sir, what is that? So then Buddha explained, uh, dear monks, there are ascetics and Brahmins who do not truly understand about the dukkha satya, or the suffering, samudaya satya, the origin of the suffering, nirodha satya, the cessation of the suffering, and also the path or the way leading to the cessation of suffering. And uh, they, those who not know about the Four Noble Truths, they, Buddha said, te jati samvattanikesu sankaresu abhiramanti. So it is very beautiful term. So without knowing the truth, without understanding the Four Noble Truth, they take pleasure in choices that lead to rebirth. So that's what it said. Jati samvattanikesu sankaresu mean uh, which is something, any phenomena, anything in the world which having the nature of rebirth. So they attach to them. And Jara Samvattanikesu Sankaresu Abhiramanti. So Jara means the old age. So if we take everything in the world, every physical objects, every mental objects, they are having the nature of uh, Uppadopanyayati, mean appearance can be seen. And Vayopanyayati, disappearance also can be seen. And Titassa Anyadattam Panyayati, something which can be observed in that objects. We can observe the decaying of that particular object. If you take a tree, if you could notice tree, You can see the, arising of the tree, and uh, disappearing of the tree, as well as the tree which is already existing. It also having the nature of decay. We could see that. So uh, so people, likewise, I took just the example of a tree, but if you take a, conscious beings, they also have the same nature. All the sentient beings, so they have in the nature of birth, old age, death, and sorrow. And also, uh, they take pleasure in the uh, sokaparthya dukkha domanassu payasa. They take pleasure in the things which gives us the lamentation, pain, sadness, and distresses. And because of that, further, uh, having made choices that lead to rebirth, old age and death, sorrow and lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress, they fall down the cliff of rebirth. So, just getting attachment towards that kind of objects, that kind of things, Buddha is just pointing out that it is similarly jumping over the cliff. So that is very beautiful thing in the sutta. So without knowing the truth, we without knowing the basement of this four noble truth, by attaching to the things, it is like jumping over the cliff. So because of that, Buddha said, the people who attach toward these kind of things, they are not freed from rebirth, old age, and death, and also from sorrow, lamentation, pain, and distresses, pain, sadness, and other all the distresses. Buddha said again, they are na parimuchanti dukkasmati vadami. So they are not freed from suffering or the dukkha, Buddha said. And further, Buddha said, ye cha ko kechi bhikkave samanava brahmanava idam dukkhanti yatha bhutam pajanati. Venerable monks, dear monks, there are uh, another group of ascetics and brahmins who truly understand about suffering, about the dukkha satya, and the origin of suffering and its cessation, as well as the path. They truly understand. So because of that understanding, because of that wisdom, because of that knowledge, they don't take pleasure much in they don't take pleasure in choices that lead to rebirth and old age, as well as death and sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress. They are not indulged. They are not just chasing behind, blindfully towards these kind of things, because of the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. Since they don't take pleasure in such choices, they stop making them. They are not because they know that everything which appears, it is having the nature of aging, sicknesses, and death. So finally we have to live everything. So they are not having much attachment, much connection, much bondages towards those kind of things. So they stop making them. It is we have to carefully understand. It is said that it is not that we are not completely, we are totally being away with them. Suppose for an example, think uh, the the behavior of the noble ones. It is like, suppose if your childhood, if you take your childhood as a children, as a child, we are very much fond of having toys, kind of thing, toys and small items, because as children we are not we are not desiring about money, dollars, and kind of thing, huge cars, branded cars. We are not having much desire towards very valuable things, because we don't know the value. So as children, as a child, we have the interest towards toys. But as an adult, when we have to deal with the children, when we have to play with the children, so we also have to play with the toys. Actually, we don't, as adult, we don't have any desire towards the toys, but still, to merge with the children, we have to play with the toys. Similarly, the people who have understood the Dhamma, the noble ones, they have behavior also the same. They are merging with the world. So conventionally, they merge with the people, and they do maintain their body by eating and by fulfilling their basic necessities. They also living with the world, but without any attachment. Likewise, the example I said, we can play with the uh, children, and someone can, by just seeing him externally, someone can make a claim that this particular person, he is like a child. He also playing with the toys. He also having the attachment towards the toys. If someone criticizes the particular adult in that way, it is a wrong kind of understanding, because though he plays with the toys, he doesn't have any attachment towards the toys, but he plays because he needs to be with the children. He needs to taken care of the children. That is the purpose. Similarly, the Aryans also behave like that. So Buddha, that's why Buddha said here that uh, they, though they dealing with the things which I mentioned, which is having the nature of birth, aging, and sicknesses, and sorrow, lamentation kind of thing. As a human, we have to deal with them. This is the world that we have. I mean, exist, but still we know the suffering nature of them because of the four noble truth, because of the we know the truth of the thing, so we are not having much attachment towards it. So our great teacher further said, having stopped making choices that lead to rebirth, old age, and death, and to sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress, so they don't fall down the cliff of rebirth. This particular person, the old one, the noble one, they don't fall the cliff of rebirth, they don't fall the cliff of old age, they don't fall the cliff of death, they don't fall down the cliff of sorrow, lamentation, and pain, sadness, and distress. And because of that, you know they are freed from the rebirth, old age, and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress. So Buddha further said, the one who knows Four Noble Truths, parimucchanti dukkasmati vadami. They are truly freed from suffering, I say, our great teacher said to the monk. So then Buddha said, Tasma vikve idam dukkanti yogo paraniyo. So that's why you should practice meditation. That's why you should practice bhavana in order to understand idam dukkanti. This is the noble truth of suffering. Yoga karniyo mean yoga mean putting effort. Yoga karniyo mean another term for bhavana, meditation. So we should try to understand the origin of the dukkha, the second noble truth, as well as third and fourth. We have to understand. We have to practice meditation in order to understand these four noble truths. So with that, sutta getting end, and so you can understand that clearly. Buddha said that all the things that we practice as bhavana or as any kind of thing, it has the connection to the four noble truths. We should know how to uh, getting out the four noble truth. So let's talk about the four noble truth in briefly, and it is very subtle discussion, and it's not having it's not interesting subject because it is deep and subtle. So you have to very carefully, you have to put your attention, and while talking, if you have any doubts, as I explained in the beginning, you can ask any questions. So, as the suffering means that it is called dukkha ariya satya. So, it is not just suffering. There are three terms. You have to be very careful. To take the first noble truth, it is called dukkha, and also ariya, also satya. As many of the translation translate that dukkha can be, we can translate as suffering, dissatisfaction, as well as unsatisfactoriness. So those translations gives us a slight idea. I mean, they are not totally wrong, as well as they are not totally right, totally correct. It gives some sense of the dukkha. But uh, the further that it is said Arya mean it can be understood by the noble ones. Noble mean not that they have created by the divine beings, but their wisdom is mature enough to understand these terms. That is, since they were known as Arya or the noble ones. Again, the Satya mean it is the truth, it is the reality. It cannot be changed. Even to the Buddha cannot be changed. That scenario, that Satya, that truth, that reality. Our great teacher Samma Sambuddha, he is not a creator of these Four Noble Truths. These Four Noble Truths, whether the Buddha appeared or not, it is already existing. It is the truth. In the world, if something appears, it has the nature of disappearing. It is not created by the Buddha. But Buddha himself declared and found that truth and declared to the world to understand. So that's why it is known as the truth. Satya means truth. So uh, dukkha arya satya means it is the noble truth of dukkha. So, uh, so when we go to the the normal introduction of the dukkha satya, it is said Jatipi dukkha. As I said, the birth is suffering. Jarapi dukkha. Aging is suffering. Maranampi dukkha. Death is suffering. Uh, Vipayogo dukkho. Disassociation with the pleasant ones. It gives us a suffering. As well as Api sampayogo dukkho. Association with the uh, unpleasant one, dislike people, it gives us the suffering. And uh, it is said, Yam picha nalabati tampi dukkha. Something which is not pleasing ourselves, our you know, ourselves, that brings us the suffering. So that is known as dukkha. So uh, the last time, the simile that I have given you, if you want to touch the core of a tree or the hardwood of the tree, you need to first remove the twigs, branches, and leaves. You have to cut off. Then you have to cut off the skin of the tree. Then you have to cut off the bark of the tree, inner bark, outer bark, as well as the soft wood, sap wood of the tree. By removing, taking off all the things, finally you can touch the hardwood of the tree. Similarly, that things that which we talk about, aging, the decaying, birth, and disassociation with the present one, association with the unpresent one, not getting what we want, everything comes under the dukkha. It is not dukkha satya. Why I am say that? uh, you know uh, Becoming old age, as well as decaying, as well as the death, is a suffering. So if you ask that same question from any of the people, everyone knows that if we are going to die, it brings us suffering. So to understand that, there's no need of much wisdom. Everyone can understand. But finally, there is a term called Samkittena Panchapadana Khanda Dukkha. It means, concisely, if we talk about uh, the grasping, Upadana Khanda, Sankittena, five aggregates, the grasping of the five aggregates is the noble truth of suffering. It is the core of the, these noble truth, noble truth of suffering. Dukkha, Arya, Satya, noble truth of suffering. So we need to understand these. What is this uh, grasping, and what are these five aggregates? So that is the briefly the first noble truth. And when you understand that one, it is said in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, a very beautiful term that is known as Pubbe Ananusutesu Dhammesu Chakkumudapada, Jnanamudapadi. It means, if you get that, if you get the meaning, if you can understand, you will begin to see that it is Pubbesu Ananutuses, mean you have never heard of that. So you begin to see that it can be teach only by the Buddha. No one can. you have never heard from anywhere in the world, because it's a universal truth when you understand about the five aggregates. So I just keep that in aside for a while, and let's talk about the second noble truth. And if you talk about the origin of the dukkha, most people have translated the origin of the dukkha as the craving or tanna. The Pali term is tanna, so craving. So they say that we have the attachment, so that is the origination of the suffering. So it is the tanna is just the uh, samudaya. It is not the samudaya arya satya. Means that, as I explained you already, the meaning of the arya and the satya. So if you attach to a thing, certain physical object or a person or a thing, it brings us suffering. It can be, it is know that if we suppose I am really attached with my mother, so when my mother died, so it brings me suffering. It's not something. I mean, it can be understood by anyone. That's why I said it is just the suffering. It's not the Arya Satya. I mean, Arya Satya means the noble truth of uh, Samudaya, the noble truth of origination. It is rather subtle to understand. So the Buddha said there are three varieties of tanha. So the most obvious one, the it is like the outer part of the tree. It can be from the external. It can be seen. If you try to uh, get the core of the tree, as I said in the earlier, you cannot directly touch the core of the tree. You can just observe the tree from externally without even becoming closer to the tree. You can observe the trees, leaves, twigs, branches, and bark, outer bark. You can observe without even getting closer to the tree. Similarly, without understanding, without jumping to the core of the samudaya structure, you can observe that attachment is the problem, but it is not the noble truth. So the noble truth of origination, if you take, there are three types of craving. You have to be very careful. What is One is called as kama tanha. So the kama mean there are two types of kama: vastu kama and klesa kama. uh, Vastukama mean uh, uh, the lustful, the desire or the craving towards the objects. That is called Vastukama. Klesakama mean uh, the desire or the tanna towards the uh, you know uh, the mental faculty. To make you understand that, I will give you an simile. Suppose if you like to uh, eat chocolate cake, and in that case you like the taste of the chocolate cake, so that is known as klesakam, that you really like the taste of that chocolate cake. And because of that likeness, you are truly search for the chocolate, that is physical object. So that is known as the vastukam, mean you are as the object, you like the chocolate. You finding chocolate because of your addiction towards the taste of the chocolate. So that is simply known as kama tanha. So I just mentioned about the faculty of the mouth, faculty of the tongue, and you have to understand by putting the same principle onto the other faculties as well, eye objects and ear objects, like that. So that is simply known as kama tanha, the cravings of or the tanha towards the sensual objects. So that obviously can be understand without getting into the core deep. Even anyone can understand that that is tanha. Also, it brings us the suffering. But further that Buddha said, bhava tanha. Bhava mean, it is subtle. It is like the sap food of the tree. You cannot see it. So bhava mean it translated into the English as becoming and the existence. So we cannot actually find the true meaning. So so you have kind of tanha towards the existence. So now you are sitting and you are listening dhamma. So you can say that, Venerable sir, I don't have any kind of attachment towards anything. But in your deep within your mind, it is hidden that kind of a tanha towards this existence. So that you cannot understand directly. So that's why we have to do meditation to understand that craving. That is the inner, unseen tendency of the mind. So that is called craving of the existence. That's why we have, you know like, for meditation, people who do practice bhavana, they like to have the place, uh, they are like to have the place where the seclusion is available. And if we can go to a monastery, they think, we are really, uh, if we can go to a monastery, we can, that time only we can do meditation, otherwise we cannot do meditation because we have so many things. Because of, they are, having that intel, uh, desire or the craving towards uh, the existence. So that is known as bhavatanna. And again, if we talk about, if we talk something about positive in the world, then you talk about positive because there are another thing that is negative. Because it is, the term duality, everything has the dependency, dependent originals. If something is positive, definitely there should be other things that is negative. So similarly, if you have the craving towards the existence, similarly you have your, in your mind, it is, uh, you know hidden with the, tendency of the mind, that is called as vibhavatanna. Mean, uh, you have the likeness, you have the desire, you have the tanna towards the vibhava, mean non-existence, non-becoming. Suppose in your family, if you see uh, dear and pleasant one, you like to have them. And if you are not dear with, if you are not like with people or objects, you try to keep away things from you. So that is because sometimes you may not directly or physically avoiding them, but mentally you have the dislikeness towards them. That is known as non-becoming. But in the translation, people have translated this craving for non-existence. Is non they just translated after the death, we will not become into existence. So that is known as the, it's, sometimes some people don't think about the rebirth, and they do all the bad things in this world, and hence they expect that not to be reborn in the future. They believe that there is no rebirth, so they do much of the bad karma. That is just part of this vibhavatanna, not the whole vibhavatanna. Even right now within you, these three categories of tanna prevails within you. So those sudden, including those subtle things together, three types of tanna together, we known as noble truth of the origination of suffering. Dukkha, Samudaya, Ariya, Satya. So you have to carefully understand that one. So then we jump into the third one, Dukkha Nirodha Satya. So it is the cessation of suffering. And if you take the uh, explanation of the cessation dukkha nirodha satya, it says about uh, the under the second noble truth, we talk about three types of craving. If someone completely can elaborate all these three types of craving or the tanha, that is the cessation of the suffering. That is known as dukkha nirodha satya. So, in order to eradicate the three types of tanha, you have to understand first these three types of tanha. So that's when you understand this nirodha satya, this cessation, you will get the fourth one, the way or the path leading to the cessation of the suffering. Dukkha nirodha gamini patipada arya satya. So that's why, in Buddhism, if you understand these three truths only, you get the path. because you see, you have to understand this world is dukkha, and that dukkha is created out of the craving or the tanha. If we can eradicate the tanha, so then we can put an end to this suffering, this dukkha. Because of that, I should practice magga satya, or else uh, the path leading to the cessation of the suffering. By knowing that, we have to do the meditation. So that's why the Buddha finally mentioned that those who know only to those who knows properly about the true four noble truth, they can only do the meditation. That then one can ask me that when the person then the one who not know about the four noble truth, they also doing meditation. So wouldn't they do meditation? Someone can ask me that question. No, no, not that they are not totally not doing any bhavana. They also doing, but that cannot be included under the Buddhist, Buddhist doctrine. So first we have to understand these four noble truth, and uh, since I would like to explain the first noble truth little bit further about the aggregates. So when you talk about aggregates, so I said that these noble truths can be explained in various ways. Suppose uh, the, the the first sutta, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, rolling of the wheel of the Dharma. In that sutta, Buddha talking about four noble truths by using the five aggregates. That is one way of expressing the four noble truths. And in future discussions we will discuss about by using six sense faculties. So the salayatana, we can talk about noble truths, as well as we can talk about four noble truth by just uh, going paticsampada, the dependent origination, as well as there are so many ways. So today in this sutta we are going to discuss about dukkha satya by understanding the aggregates. So if you go into the aggregates, it is like uh, dividing objects into a tiny part, and you can uh, suppose if you take uh, camera or something like that, and if you divide that camera, if you deassemble the camera into tiny parts, then you know uh, you cannot find a camera. So it is so if you take that, if you take out the lens separately, memory separately, and other chips and other electric parts separately, you cannot directly find a camera. Similarly, now you think myself and my son, my brother, my mother, my car, my 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 land, kind of, you can have objects, both living and non-living. So if you take that incident into the aggregates, then you could find only five objects. The first one is known as the form, rupaskandhi, that means the form object, the aggregates of the form. Then second one is known as feeling, aggregates of feeling, that's called vedana. And third one, aggregates of sanya, mean perception. And the fourth one, the aggregates of sankhara, mean the mental fabrications. The fifth one, uh, aggregates of consciousness, or the vijnana khanda. So those five aggregates you can take. But out of five, the uh, the form aggregate, or the rupa khanda, you can observe it, you can see, you can physically observe. But the other four aggregates you cannot see. It is not physically observed. It has to be understood by the wisdom. So that's why it's not so easy to understand, the simile that I have given you. And if you the camera simile, if you deassemble the camera, you can see the the separate part, you can see, uh, you can, by just keeping, you can observe them. But these five aggregates is not like that. When you talk about the form aggregates, you cannot. It is just appearing and disappearing. The feelings also the same. Our feelings always appearing and disappearing, and perceptions also same, appearing and disappearing. Uh, Mental fabrications, aggregates also the same, always appearing and disappearing. The consciousness, our mind is also the same, is also the same. It's not the same mind that we right now have. It's not the previously existed mind. I mean, when we begin this talk, we have kind of a mind. Right now, it is totally different mind because we are now focusing on to uh, different things. Likewise, you cannot find the same five aggregates all the time. It changing. It is like a flowing river. So all those objects are like a flowing river. To make you further understand, I have given this simile earlier. We take an example of a river. The river is always flowing. Let's take the world's biggest river, the Amazon River. So we can say that the Amazon River has flown since the past. Now it is flowing, and in the future also it will flow. And you can talk about the past, present, and also the future of the Amazon River. So that is conventionally. But if you dive deep into the scenario, deep into the incident, you cannot find the same river twice, because the stream of water which is in right now, it was not in the yesterday, in the past, and it will also not in the future. The stream of water is different because it always having the stream. So you cannot find the same river twice. But generally, conventionally, we can say that it is the Amazon River has existed for a long period of time. We can say, but not the same river. So people actually, know the truth of this. That's why when you, if someone wants to make a painting, they are not going to a surface of the water. So they are not making any drawings, making any images on the surface of the water, because it is useless. So we don't have any worries, just to we don't have any hopes to create any kind of pictures or on the surface of the water, because we know the truth of the water. Similarly, suppose if you can understand your all the aggregates, the appearing nature of, and as well as the disappearing nature of, if you can truly understand, so your existence, both physically and mentally, becomes like a stream of river. Then if you truly understand that, I mean, you have nothing to worry, you have nothing to attach, because everything appears which has the nature of disappearing. It is not that uh, from the birth we came into being, and we existing for 50 to 60 to 70 to 80 years, it depends on our age, and after that dying. So to just that appearing and disappearing, it takes like 50 years, like some certain years. That is not the noble truth. It can be observed to anyone. If you ask from the atheist, if you ask anyone who not believe any religion, he also give the answer. Okay, we can see that all the people who come into being, I finally they have to die. Nothing to be understood. But if you take very moment of this moment is came into being out of nowhere, and it completely ceased to exist. So if you take your mind for an example, it is the stream of consciousness is known as I said in the example of the river. The river is a stream of water. Similarly, if you take your mind, it's just a stream of consciousness. You cannot find the same mind, same consciousness twice. It always flowing. So you have to understand that nature, then you begin to understand there is nothing called myself, me, and other permanent existing objects you cannot find. Because of that, you have nothing to worry about. I mean, for the craving, there's no place for craving. Suppose if you crave to make a painting on the surface of the water, that cannot be done, because you know for sure I can never draw a picture on the surface of the water. It is useless. Similarly, if you understand truly the appearing and disappearing nature of your uh, these namarupa, all the the forms and the mental aggregates, mental factors, or the consciousness, everything, so then you have nothing to put the three types of craving. There's no place for that. So, and Buddha has given a beautiful simile of that. uh, you know if the we can normally we know the sun is rising from the east side. So when the sun is rising, sunlight come into being, and from the western side, if there's a wall, or if there's the earth surface, or if there's any surface like water surface, or any surface is available, then when the sun light is just fallen onto the surface, we could see that this the sun is arise, sunlight can be seen. But if suppose there's a moment that if there's no any surface to fall down the sunlight, then can you observe the sunlight? Suppose if there's no any surface of the sunlight, you cannot observe that sunlight. Similarly, so the people are trying to detach from the things, but people trying to eradicate the craving. But in Buddhism, what is happening? You understand the appearing disappearing nature, or else we can say that anicca nature. So when you understand that, then you have no surface for the craving or the tanha, three types of tanha to fallen down, because always what is happening, appearing and disappearing. So that's what happening in Buddhism. So by knowing that truth, you try to understand the three types of craving, and you have to understand the cessation of these three types of craving in that way. Not that you are not just uh, eradicating craving. You are just removing the surface for the craving to arise. So by knowing that truth, if you understand that truth, that is known as the samadhi. Under the fourth noble truth, if you take the magda, if you take the path again, then first we have to talk about samadhi, then again we have to talk about four noble truth. So path itself begins with the four noble truth. Just imagine. And if we talk about last time, one disciple have asked a great question, Bhante. The if we talk about four noble truths, we have to talk about the noble eightfold path. And again, if we go under the noble eightfold path, then again we have to talk about four noble truths. So just imagine the connection between these path and the four noble truths. So that's why these are like the uh, both side of the same coin. We cannot separate this. So that's why my teachers and always pointing me, always teaching me that uh, every practices that we do has the connection. We have to know the connection to the Purna. Otherwise, we do bhavana, we do dana, we do sila, we practice sila, we do any kind of thing which not relates to Buddhism. So when you understand that nature, then suppose there are so many wrong views in the world prevailing at now, because so someone if you some- if someone may think like this. Suppose if everything appearing and disappearing, everything if under everything, if we cannot find a true self, true being, true entity, it is like robots. No, if you take robots, they are they are now if you take this artificial intelligence and if you create a robot, in future they are, you cannot physically, you cannot observe differences between the human and the robotic creation. So at that time one can think that, so then if we kill a robot, then we won't get any sins, no. So in that way we can think that. But It is not the case in Buddhism. If you get to the path as the second noble truth, then again you get what, the right concept, samma sankappa. Under right concept, the avyapada concept is very important. Avyapada means the friendliness, method, loving kindness. We have to practice, not that robotic beings. We have to be really sentient. We have to really think of. We must have the kindness towards the others. Then avihimsa, that is known as the compassion towards the other beings. You know, as the monks, it's very important. Like, uh, suppose, if you find a true delicate and tasty food, and go into a seclusion, and if you try to eat only by yourself, that is not a good thing. And if you can share it to the others, and that is the real human quality. Similarly, the monks who understood this dhamma, their nature is that they are going to share with others, because if we if they able to taste this noble dhamma, definitely they will be really freed from all the kind of suffering. So that's why the compassion is a needed factor of this path. Then the third part of the second step of the noble eightfold path is known as the Nekkhamma Sankalpa. Nekkhamma means we must have the concept of renunciation, concept of giving up. As the roughly people say, detachment, concept of detachment. We have to practice. It's not just blindly we practice. By knowing the truth, you know, it is like that. So then we practice sila, because under the further, if you go to the, I'm not going to elaborate you the other four other eights, all the four noble eightfold path. I'm not going to explain right now. So you can, with that, I have tried to make you an understanding about these four noble truth in a deeper way. So it's so subtler than this. So in future discussions, we talk about this four noble truths in another way by using the sense salayatana, or the six sense basis. So I will select one sutta and we will discuss. So with that, we have come to the end of this talk. And if you have any doubt, I know there are so many doubt because it's so subtle. So you can ask any questions. Oh, I can answer that question. So already one question already asked. Teruvan Sarnai Bhante, is it then that one should not remind oneself of even the good deeds he has done in life in order to attain Nibbana, which means becoming completely free of all Panchapadana Kanda, detachment from five aggregates, either with greed, hatred, or delusion? Yes, that's a good question, and it is said, performing uh, good deeds. It actually it has the connection with the phonable truth. Like, it's not that the Arya one, the noble one, they have not. They are only focusing about the five aggregates. No, if you take the human quality, they they know the basic. Like, suppose in Buddhism there are two ways of truth. One is known as conventional truth, as well as they know about the ultimate truth. So under conventional truth, doing good deeds, it's a it's a obvious thing. It's a really needed one. For an example, suppose uh, you may have heard this story. Our venerable Sariputta Thera once, he already enlightened one, no? So he had once he had done a dana towards the sangha. He went alone, arms rounding for the bhikkhus, and he offered alms to the bhikkhus, he himself, as enlightened being, even as the enlightened being. For what? Because one of her previous family member wanted some merits. So he, as an arahant one, he made an offering to the sangha, and he offered that merits to that particular person who are in need of these merits. Because all the after all the uh, you know meritorious deeds, we have a practice of sharing merits towards the departed one, the lived one. So that practice, even the arahants also practice. So it signifies that all the things, all the even the worldly things also relates to this noble truth. If one suppose, last time also I given this explain, and I've seen that someone mentioned uh, there is no connection between dana into the four noble eightfold path, because there is no any mention in the if you take noble eightfold path, you cannot find the term called dana or the giving. So one can say that there is no, if you give dana, it will not help you to gain the liberation. One can say that, but if one say in that way, it is a completely uh, misguided interpretation. Why? Directly we cannot find the term dana. It is a worldly thing giving. But if you take the, as I explained, the concept of renunciation or the nekkamma sankalpa, it already included the dana. So suppose you are trying to eradicate your mental defilement, but if you are really attached to the physical objects, and if you cannot uh, offer, if you cannot detach from the physically, how could you detach from the mentally? That's why if you give dana, it is a it is a worldly good thing. Under conventional, it's a good thing, but it will directly help you to go through the path of nibbana as well. And if you take the sealer, that's why the wisdom is required. Knowing with the vision, with the right way, we have to do everything. The people who know, I mean, for an example, I have given this simile last time also. That suppose if you take a blind one in the world, and if you try to make that blind one understand about the dana, about the sila, about the world, he cannot understand at all because he's blind. And instead of giving instructions to him, our duty is to support him to get the eyesight. So if he get the eyesight, then he himself can observe the world. Similarly, as I explained, as Kalyana Mitta, our duty is to understand the Four Noble Truths. So that's why in Dhammachakra Sutta is also said Dhamma Chakku Mudapadi, Jnana Mudapadi. It's known as this understanding of the Four Noble Truths. In Dhamma, it is known as a eye, Chakku Mudapadi, appearing of the eye. It's a wisdom mind. Then, when you have that wisdom mind, you know how to deal with the worldly things as well as the ultimate things. Dhamma as well as the non Dhamma, everything you know how to deal with. And the simile that I have given you, uh, as an adult, if you want to live in the world, sometimes you may find the child is mine, like children. So suppose you are getting only the children, then you have to be with the children. So at that time you will play toys, but by playing, you are not like child, because you are playing with that because you need to be with the children. Similarly, the enlightened one, the noble one, also performing these human qualities things like doing dana and kind of thing. But definitely they know how to bring the benefit that from them to the nibbana, the path leading to the cessation of suffering. They know how to, I mean, connect those conventional as well as the ultimate thing together. Bhante, the craving could be usually satisfied by getting what is looking for, but attachment for five aggregates by greed, hatred, delusion are not easily overcome. Aren't those what take you along the samsara? Uh, it's a definitely it's the thing. So, as I explained, uh, uh, attachment towards the kamatan, the first type of craving out of the three, the attachment towards the physical objects cannot be seen, can be seen, can be observed. It is rough, so that we can identify that. But the attachment or the craving towards bhavatanna and vibhavatanna, craving towards the existence as well as the non-existence, it cannot be roughly, surfacely we cannot understand. That's why we should meditate, we should develop samadhi to understand that scenario. So that's why, uh, as Buddhists, suppose you do practice samatha meditation. By doing samatha meditation, you try to get the full attention of your mind towards your mind. You are closing, when you at the samadhi, you get in the deeper level of samadhi, you are closing your external five faculties: eye faculty, ear faculty, nose faculty, tongue faculty, body faculty. You can switch off that. So at that time, you are totally focusing on the mind, the consciousness faculty. So then you can easily understand that innate nature of the craving, the craving for existence as well as the craving for non-existence. That you can understand, because you are dealing with your mind. As I said, in the, the stream of water. Similarly, if you can identify the stream of consciousness, then you can eradicate that, the hidden two types of craving, because you understand that no point of having that, the craving for non-existence and existence, you can identify, so then you can deal with them. So actually, these the journey of samsara happens mainly because of those innate or hidden, uh, cravings, as I said. So that's a good question. Bhante, I recall the Buddha said that virtue alone does not lead to Nibbana. Have I understood this properly? Actually, it's a proper understanding. It's true understanding. But if you take the sammaditthi, word sammaditthi, right view, and Buddha said in the first chapter of Anguttara Nikaya, Venerable dear monks, I don't see any Dhamma which really helpful like the Sammaditthi for the bhavana, for the further development. When one Sammaditthi means he has the right view, uh, Sammaditthi, then definitely the one who has gained the knowledge of the Four Noble Truths. Suppose he is not doing any bhavana, but still within seven becomings, he, you know, he giving up these worldly attachments. He will definitely within, he will certain for the nibbana. So that's why that understanding is the main thing, not that virtues or any meritorious deeds that we do. It's not the matter. As I said the simile, suppose uh, blind one is living there, then uh, mm, he do meditation. The blind one, he do meditation, and though he has gained some kind of mental samadhi, still he is the blind one. But the one who has the eye, sometimes he doesn't do any kind of meditation, but still he has the eyesight. Whenever the time he begins to meditate, he can he can understand, he can relate uh, the virtues into the path. So the understanding is the important factor, not just the virtues. To make you further understanding, I would like to give you an simile. Uh, suppose you know uh, if you take a war, if you take a war, and there are two sides. One is enemy, and one is the friendly forces. And suppose friendly forces is noble, and the enemies are they are terrible. They just imagine. And there are some enemies. They are very talented. They know their vision well. They know their mission well. They are very talented that they're doing very beautifully, and they are very talented by doing work. But they are leading to the bad destination because their purpose is not right. Because, but the friendly forces, they are having a good mental, good purpose. Maybe sometimes they may not be talented as the enemy, but their purpose is good. So that's why the not what we do is the not it is not that important what we do. The important thing is our mindset, our understanding. So when you understand that, uh, so it is the important. And for further, a great teacher once said that, people who do bhavana, who do practices without the basic knowledge, is uh, at a greater risk than the one who know the truth but still he's not practicing any virtue. He's the one who is the best better one. The one who practice without knowledge, he is in danger. Suppose if you have some kind of basic infrastructures, and without a plan, if you consume that infrastructure, you will really you will wasted all those infrastructure without the knowledge. If you just try to do something, but uh, if you know that you are going to do by use how to use this infrastructure, and if you have the mission, if you have the plan, if you have the target, you know how to properly use them. Similarly, the one who has the basic understanding, he know how to do sila, samadhi, and prajna, and everything. He know how to do dana. He know how to live with in the world with conventionally, like that. So that's all the questions so far. Uh, so with that, we have come to the end of the sermon, and we had a long session. And uh, so would like to share all the merits. First of all, I would like to remind my teachers, Venerable Man Kadal Sudarsana Thero, as well as Venerable Man Kadal Nandakan Thero, as well as my teacher, Venerable Kotmali Kumar Thero. My teachers may share these merits, and may they be well in this life as well as the future lives, and may they be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana as soon as possible. And secondly, I would like to share all these merits to the all the sentient beings, including devas and other beings. And if they like to share these merits, may they have these merits, may they share these merits, and may they be able to attain uh, the both mental happiness, mental well-being, as well as the physical well-being. May they get the well-being of this life as well as the future life, and ultimately may they be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. And finally, I would like to remind, especially the Cloud Monastery, Bhante Sudasso, and as well as the Ayasoma and other venerable monks, as well as the laity, because they have so many patrons and patronizers are there. So all those who have participated directly or indirectly, may they share all these merits to them. As well as I would like to remind, I would like to share these merits. I would like to invoke blessings for those all those who participated in these Dhamma discussions, as well as all the sentient beings. And with these merits, with these Dhammadana merits that we have gathered so far throughout the samsaric journey of myself, and we all may invoke to all the sentient beings, and all the beings be well, be happy, may find the physical comfort, all the physical comforts, as well as the mental comfort, the spiritual comfort, in this life as well as in the future lives, and all of the beings be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana with the infinite blessings of the triple gems. So with that, I would I will put the end of I will end of the sermon by blessing you with the infinite noble triple gems. අභිවාදන සීලිස්ස නිච්ඡං වද්ධා පචායිනෝ චත්තාරෝ ධම්මා වඩ්ඩಂತಿ ආයුවන්නෝ සුඛං බලං ආයු ආරෝග්‍ය සම්පatti සග්ග සම්පatti මේවච අතෝ නිබ්බාන සම්පatti ඉමිනාතේ සමිජ්ජතු. තෙරුවන් සරණයි to everyone.